I've been in this hell, I'm alright, yeah, I'm fine. I'm just living like I'm gonna die. Apart, I don't fight.
Welcome back to another episode of the Men's Guide to the Galaxy. I am Chaotic Decent, your host, and thank you for listening. So, today we're going to be diving into something that every man has felt, but most of us have never been allowed to name. And it's toxic masculinity. Not the masculinity itself, not strength, not discipline, not courage. Those things are actually quite beautiful. They're necessary. They're part of what makes men men. I'm talking about the version of masculinity that gets twisted. The version boys are taught before they even know who they are. The version that tells young men to shut up, harden up, and man up, even when they're breaking inside. And I know you all felt that. This episode is about how that conditioning shapes boys. It damages youth and follows men into adulthood like a shadow they never asked for. I'm going to touch on what toxic masculinity actually is. Toxic masculinity isn't about men being the problem. It's about the rules men are forced to follow. Rules like don't cry, don't show weaknesses, don't ask for help, don't talk about feelings, don't be soft, and don't be vulnerable. Don't be anything that looks feminine. These rules aren't natural. They're taught, they're enforced, and they're punished. Boys for being human are now punished. Psychologists call this gender role strain. It's when a boy tries to fit in a box that's too small for who he actually is. So you're probably wondering how boys learn that. It mostly comes from childhood into adolescence. It starts early. A boy cries, stop acting like a girl. A boy gets hurt, walk it off. A boy shows fear, don't be soft. A boy expresses love, that's weird, don't say that. By adolescence, these rules get harsher. Around the age of 12, boys enter a formal operation stage. The stage where they develop identity, abstract reasoning, and moral logic. It's the stage where they're supposed to explore who they are. But instead of exploring, many boys are corrected, shaped, and restricted. They're told what a real man is even before they get to decide what kind of man they want to be. Toxic masculinity steals identity before it can even form. This causes psychological damage. This is where the real harm shows up. Emotional suppression, boys learning to bury everything. Anger becomes the only acceptable emotion. It creates loneliness. Younger men, emotionally isolated. They don't open up. They don't trust anyone within their inner world. It creates identity confusion, which Erickson calls this identity versus role confusion stage. If boys can't explore who they are, they grow into men who feel lost. It becomes risk-taking and self-destructive. When you can't express pain, you express it through behavior. Fighting, drinking, recklessness, shutdown, overworking, and numbing. Mental health collapse. Depression in young men rarely looks like sadness. It looks like irritability, zoning out, gaming for 12 hours, sleeping all day, and not caring anymore. And society calls it laziness instead of suffering. So you're probably wondering how it shows up in young men today. You see it everywhere. The alpha-beta obsession, boys are being taught to rank themselves like animals, the car decompression moment, young men sit in their cars before going inside because they're switching masks, the distraction trap, men pour time into tasks that keep them from feeling, losing identity. A man who loves art gets told it's feminine. A man who loves softness gets told it's weak. So he hides these parts of himself that make him actually feel alive. Unfortunately, there's a possession mindset, and I hate to say it, but the Andrew Tate agenda. Now, we need to talk about something that's become a massive part of young male culture, especially online: possession. The idea that a woman is something a man owns, controls, or manages. This mindset is one of the most damaging parts of toxic masculinity, and it's dangerous. And it's being pushed harder than ever through influencer culture. And yes, we're going to talk about Andrew Tate. Not to attack him, not to preach, but because millions of boys are learning their definition of masculinity from him. And we need to unpack why that's dangerous. The psychology behind possession. Possession is born from insecurity. When a man doesn't feel enough, not strong enough, not successful enough, not respected enough, he tries to control the one thing he thinks he can: a woman. Control becomes a substitute for confidence. Jealousy becomes a substitute for connection. Rules become a substitute for trust. This isn't masculinity. It's fear wearing a mask. Andrew Tate mixes some genuinely hopeful messages: discipline, fitness, financial independence, but he also has deeply harmful ones about women. He frames relationships as ownership. He teaches boys that loyalty is enforced, not earned. He suggests that a woman's value is tied to purity, obedience, and restriction. Young men hear a real man controls his woman, which personally I think's bullshit. A real man sets the rules. A real man decides what she can and can't do. Also bullshit. And because boys are already conditioned to avoid vulnerability, they don't question this. They absorb it. And why boys fall for it? Boys don't follow Tate because they're bad. They follow him because they're lost. He gives them certainty, structure, identity, belonging, and a script for masculinity, which is usually paid for. So you're paying someone to learn this behavior. It tells boys that dominance equals worth, that control equals love, that possession equals loyalty. And the real cost to young men: possession doesn't just hurt women, it destroys men. Because when you are trying to own someone, you lose yourself. You become paranoid. You become jealous. You become controlling. You become emotionally dependent on dominance. And deep down, you know it's not love. It's insecurity. We gotta break the cycle. We don't fix toxic masculinity by attacking men. We fix it by giving men permission to be human. We teach boys emotional language. Not therapy talk, just real talk. Show vulnerability without shame. When a man opens up, he's not weak, he's brave. Redefine strength. Strength isn't silence. Strength is honesty. Strength is self-control. We have to build male friendships that go deeper than banter. Men don't need brothers, not drinking buddies. They need people who are going to be there for them and listen to them. So we're going to explore identity without punishment. Let them be who they are, not who the world tells them to be. I guess toxic masculinity isn't a male problem, it's a cultural problem. And the men who break the cycle, the men who choose honesty, vulnerability, and emotional intelligence, they're not weak, they're pioneers. So now I'm going to touch onto a topic, part of this toxic masculinity that is shaping a generation of young men. The internet has become the new father figure, the new mentor, the new teacher of masculinity. And depending on where a young man lands, he's either guided, misled, or completely lost. So, toxic masculinity evolves on the internet. How it spreads, how it affects the way young men see themselves, women, relationships, and the world they live in. Unfortunately for a lot of boys, the internet's the first place they learn what it means to be a man. It's not from their dad anymore, not from their school, not from real mentors, but algorithms. Algorithms don't care about your well-being. They care about your attention. So, what do they feed young men? Outrage, dominance, conflict, hyper-masculine posturing, alpha versus beta hierarchies that we talked about earlier, clips designed to trigger emotion and not teach wisdom. The internet rewards extremes, and young men, especially those who feel lost, get pulled into the loudest voices. It's like the echo chamber effect. Once a young man clicks on one video about masculinity, the algorithm says, "Oh, you like that? Well, here's 500 more." Suddenly he's in the tunnel. He's hearing the same messages over and over and over again. Women can't be trusted. Men must be dominant. Feelings are weakness. You're either an alpha or a nobody. If you're not in control, you're being controlled. That is a load of bullshit. This echo chamber becomes his reality. And because he's young and still forming an identity, still figuring out who he is, he absorbs it as the truth, which obviously all of us can relate to. Influencers have replaced role models. Some of them offer genuinely helpful advice. They offer discipline. They offer fitness, financial literacy, self-improvement, confidence. But mixed in with that is a much darker message. This is where, as I said before, the Andrew Tate influence comes in. So, one of the most dangerous ideas spreading online is the possession mindset. The belief that a woman is something a man owns. You see it in body count debates, purity culture, loyalty tests, controlling behavior framed as protecting her, jealousy being sold as love, rules about what she can wear, post, or do. This mindset doesn't come from strength. I said it earlier, and I'll say it again, it's insecurity, and the internet, it amplifies it. Influencers online tell these boys, if she respects you, she'll obey you. If she loves you, she won't have male friends. If she's loyal, she'll follow your rules. It's fear. This is honestly fear dressed up as leadership. Like, I would be mortified with myself if I acted the way that some of these people do towards women. It's disgusting. Online masculinity becomes a performance. Young men feel pressure to look tough, act dominant, never show softness, never admit fear, never express vulnerability, and always be in control. Jesus Christ, I'm sitting here in a dressing gown, drinking a coffee, and talking to you. Do you think I care how tough I look right now? No, because I'm in the safety of my home with my partner who loves me. They're performing for strangers, for likes, for validation. And the tragedy is, the performance becomes the identity. A boy who's hurting can't say he's hurting. A boy who's lonely can't say he's lonely. A boy who's scared can't say he's scared. These feelings are normal. But he hides behind a mask that the internet rewards. The impact on mental health is huge. The internet tells young men to be strong, but not how to be strong. So they end up emotionally numb. They end up disconnected. Most of the time when we're out, we're anxious. We're angry. We're isolated. We're confused about relationships. Terrified of vulnerability. Most of us are addicted to validation, and I've been there. I would seek validation because I didn't have the confidence in myself to know that what I was doing was the right thing. I sought validation because I didn't think the stuff I was doing deserved any sort of respect. They're constantly comparing themselves to unrealistic standards. I'm guilty of that. I've been like that before. Young men, though, they can break free. Breaking free from online toxic masculinity doesn't mean rejecting masculinity. It means redefining it. Unfollow these accounts that fuel insecurity, anger, or control. Follow men who model healthy strength. Men who show discipline and vulnerability. Men who lead without dominating, and men who love without controlling. Build real life connections. Online masculinity is performative. Real masculinity is relational. If you have a group of friends who you can confide in, that's better than listening to some guy talk about control. Question content, please. Ask, is this teaching me to grow or teaching me to fear? Why fear something that can make you a better person? Redefine your strength. Strength is self-control. Strength is emotional intelligence. Realize that your partner has friends. Realize that she had a life before you entered it, and you can't take that away from her, just like she can't take that away from you. You have to be in a supportive relationship. The internet's powerful. It's shaped generation after generation for better or worse. But at the end of the day, masculinity isn't something you find online. It's something you build in the real world. Through your actions, through your values, through your relationships, through your willingness to grow. If you're listening to this, and I'm going to say this at the end of every episode, you're doing the work. You're stepping into a version of masculinity that's healthier, stronger, and more human. This is what this podcast is about. Not tearing down men, but helping men rise. Thank you.